my opinion of my first two wives. But apart from that, it's okay. There were three writers that inspired me. They were the books. My father left home on Victory in Europe Day, the day that officially Europe had won the war. My father left, and all I had left of him were five books. I think five books. There was two Edgar Rice Burroughs books, George Bernard Shaw, and P.G. Wodehouse. And I believe that those are the three writers who inspired me, because they were the only books in the house, and so I read them all. And I mean, it's very strange. You know, I was only, well, four. You know, I'd read these books before I ever got to school, which made school very boring indeed. But it was those three: Burroughs, Shaw, Wodehouse. And I think you probably see traces of all three of them. Overall, no. My favorite character is Mrs. Cornelius, the mother of Jerry Cornelius, I think probably. And in Mother London, to be Joseph Kiss, I think, would be another favorite character. Of the fantasy characters, I'd say Elric was my favorite. He's the one I can still find new stories for, whereas the others, the story's finished. It's, you know, that's the end. So yes, I mean, in terms of fantasy, Elric is, but I tend to prefer my more natural characters personally. Well, I think Warhammer are simple thieves. I mean, they don't just steal from me; they steal from everybody. So you know, that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's simple theft. It's commercial theft. But otherwise, I mean, wherever people have been inspired to write something, I don't have any problems at all, and in fact don't feel any proprietorial feeling. I don't have that towards my characters particularly, which is why I gave Jerry Cornelius to any writer that came to me and said they wanted to write it. I think it's part of the ongoing process. I mean, we all do it. You know, we're inspired by some people. If we're lucky, we inspire other people. And I think it was Terry Pratchett who said that popular fiction is like a big pot from which you take some, and into which you put something back. But I think it was Terry said, more put something back than others. And so, you know, it's all a question of how much you put into the pot. And that's how I see it. I don't. People are always writing to me and saying, "Oh, you know, this person's stolen something from you. You know, this person has borrowed from you," and you know, you could do that with anybody. I mean, you could certainly do it with me. I make it very clear that I stole Elric from a writer called Anthony Skene, who had a character, a pre-war character called Zenith the Albino, and he was my direct inspiration, I think. I inspired him, for what it's worth. Well, only that the Hawkmoon books were written quite some time before he wrote The Iron Dream. But we actually talked about The Iron Dream. We were talking about the inherent fascist undercurrents in a lot of fantasy. We were on a train, and we were just laughing about it and saying, what if Adolf Hitler had been a fantasy writer? Would the world have been a better place? So, and that sort of thing, But it was Norman. I mean, I had no serious influence on it. It was Norman's idea, but that was where the idea came from. Just two bored writers sitting on a train. Well, it's been, it's come and gone. Various different people have wanted to film Elric. And I've received a great deal of money from people who, in the end, have not filmed Elric. I haven't suffered at all from there being no film. In fact, I'm better off with no film, which would disappoint. The thing about Elric is, and I don't want to sound pretentious, but from the other book that I had that that I bought, it's the first book I ever bought, was a book called The Pilgrim's Progress, which was written by John Bunyan, who was an early Protestant, and it's an allegory of a Christian going through various countries which symbolize fear, greed, and so on, various vices, and he somehow gets through, he resists the vices and eventually comes to the eternal city, the paradise. And it impressed me that there were two levels. There was the story level, and then there was the allegorical level. The difference, I think, between my fiction and most of the other fiction that I see is that there is this as it were, element of symbolism that runs through the stories and is pretty consistent. Whereas most of the stuff that Game of Thrones is a good example. I mean, it's an extremely well done piece of work. I've only seen a couple of the TV things. But it's impressive as a story and clearly impresses a large number of people. But it is really just a story. I mean, unless you're going to talk about the Wars of the Roses or some historical context, that's about it. There's not much else going on, and I don't think George intended anything else to be going on. By and large, that kind of fiction is more successful in the main than the kind of fiction that I write. I notice this sometimes. It's more in America than anywhere else. But people complain, because they don't like the character. He's not a character they can identify with. I is a good guy, and really, I'm not writing for people who just want to identify with the good guy. I'm trying to talk about the complexities of the human psyche, or the Melnibonéan psyche, I suppose. So that's probably the difference. It's rather arrogant of me to say that. It's just that I don't find much else in those stories. There are some that do have that, and we're working. I mean, Roger Zelazny, for instance, was working in that mode. He knew what he was supposed to do. He was a medieval scholar. He understood romance, and so he did try to kind of deal with that in his work. But I don't know very many people who did that. Even somebody that I admire considerably, Jack Vance, who's just died, I don't think did that. Whereas Fritz Leiber did do it. His Grey Mouser stories are an example of that. And a lot of Leiber's fiction carried an extra level to it. playing the banjo. I mean, really playing the banjo. That's what he was very good at. Although there's a very bad YouTube video, I think it's on the YouTube, of him playing the ukulele when he was very old. And it's terrible. I mean, it's really bad ukulele playing. But he was a very good banjo player. And so that is actually my main memory of Vance as a human being. As a writer, I didn't really read very much, but I didn't need to. I thought the Dying Earth stories were superb, and they were a strong influence on me. My favorite superhero? Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel of the 40s and 50s in particular, and C.C. Beck, who drew Captain Marvel and wrote Captain Marvel, some of it. When I was a kid, Captain Marvel, the school divided into Captain Marvel fans and Superman fans, and I was the only Captain Marvel fan. So I had a very hard time defending my superhero. And I can tell you that no matter how many times you say it, in how many different ways you say it, and whatever places you say it in, Shazam does not turn you into Captain Marvel. I think you have to be Billy Batson for that. So I've really always wanted to be a little newsboy superhero.